give a brief opening.
Well, my name is Kerri Fowler. I've been an assistant state attorney for 23 years. I've been licensed with the Florida Bar for 24 years. The bulk of my career has been in Viera. I have done some appearances in Melbourne or Titusville, and then during my juvenile stint, I did get to go to Sanford several times for juveniles that were in trouble over there. Had an opportunity to work in front of a lot of judges, a lot retired, some deceased at this point, but I think all of that has led me to be a better lawyer, and I've accomplished, I think, on task with where I am in my career at the state attorney's office, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm looking forward to maybe moving to the next level.
Thank you. Mr. Greer.
Thanks for the writing samples that you submitted. We really get writing samples that good people who have so many cases like you do. So what's the process in the writing that you do, especially on these type of pleadings that you provide? Is there a form book that you use? How do you get started and how do you get finished?
Well, I remember back to my first year in law school. We all used the IRAC method, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, and I have continued that throughout my career. Figure out what your issue is, look to see what the rules or the law surrounding it, analyze it, and conclude. And that has been my method with every issue that I've had to draft a response, memorandum. That's the format I use.
And do you think there's an advantage or a disadvantage? You really had one job. I know it's a series of positions for 24, 25 years. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage in seeking the position you're now seeking?
Well, I think with working at the state attorney's office, it's unique in the sense that you do have a lot of varying roles. I've been a trial attorney. I did do, when I was in juvenile, I was also intake. And I think intake is a unique experience because that's what gets the ball rolling. Those are the decisions, whether a case is filed, whether it's not filed, those interactions with law enforcement, victims. So I've had an opportunity to have varying roles. And I think they're all very transferable skills. You learn how to talk to people, you learn how to deal with touchy subjects, you're decisive, and what you say goes to a certain extent. If law enforcement sends in a case that we can't prove, then you have to rip off that Band-Aid and say, we can't file that case. So you make those decisions. So I think, again, very transferable skills that can cross over and handle civil matters as well.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Fowler. I think we met at the Juvenile Justice Court meetings. And I spoke with Mr. Price, and he always speaks very highly of you. How do you feel about, I know you've always been a state attorney and you've done a very good job of it. How do you feel about doing civil work?
Well, I think when I started as a criminal attorney, I didn't know anything about criminal law. We have rules to follow, we have statute to follow, and I think, again, when you know how to look at the rules, interpret the rules, read the law, I think it transfers. So although I haven't handled civil cases, other than we did handle Baker Acts, mental health kind of crosses over, and of course, in juvenile, you're 1 foot in dependency and 1 foot in delinquency almost at that point. So there are I feel like I could accomplish that and that I could get up to speed. And of course, there are plenty of other judges that I'm very familiar with and I've worked with before they were judges and then now as judges that I could always ask for help as well.
Thank you.
Good morning. I have sort of a follow-up question. As someone who primarily practices civil, discovery disputes come up all the time, not so much in criminal. So the question is, what would your approach be, and how would you rule on, let's say, a discovery dispute involving, financial or fraudulent transfers under FDUCTA, in terms of the actual financial records?
Well, at first I would look to see what the rule is and what the violation is, and look to see why it's being violated. Is it difficulty working with getting those records, or is it a blatant disregard of that court order? And I think that makes a difference. I think we have rules, and those rules must be followed. So if it's a hard and fast rule, then there needs to be sanctions, which I'm sure are set out. Otherwise, I think there's a reasonableness factor that goes into it. If a person is diligently working and there's not a hard and fast sanction that is, if you're 2 days late, 3 days late, then I think there needs to be some accommodation. But they're within reason, because everybody relies on these deadlines in order to move forward. And I met with survivors yesterday, and we don't have those deadlines necessarily in criminal court. But it's important that if you're going to hire an expert, you're going to have a motion to suppress. We need to have some movement on this case. These people, their daughters are dead. They want some finality. So when it comes up for the next docket sounding, I'm going to ask the court to impose some statuses for some deadlines. So there is some crossover with criminal court, but of course I would rely on the rules and what those requirements are.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. So I see in your application you've had approximately 73 jury trials. Is that correct?
Well, I have not kept good records. I did try to use the report form in our system. It could be more. It's definitely not less. But yes, I have approximately that.
So over 24 years, approximately 3 years. Does that sound about right?
Well, keep in mind I was in juvenile for 5 years, so there's a break in time with no jury trials. I don't remember misdemeanor trials, but we did them. You had a trial period. They were always Wednesday to Friday, and you picked and went. And under Mr. Wolfinger, we did have a, I think, 6-a-year requirement, and I always was meeting or exceeding those requirements.
So at this point, you're prosecuting firearms and career criminals. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when you were the supervisor of the juvenile division, were you the juvenile division chief?
I was, and when I first started, we were fully staffed, and then COVID hit, and then I was never fully staffed again. So it became me and my paralegal doing intake, covering all the court, and Judge Ryman did not stop. During COVID, we had detentions every day, and that was something unique with juvenile, because on every other docket, you see where the judge has vacation, and you high-five each other and think about all that work you're going to get done in your office. In juvenile, you still go to court every day, whether the judge is there or not, because you have detentions. So there were times where I would be sitting in drug court or handling afternoon court doing non-jury trials. My paralegal would have to bring over the arraignment files for the next morning so that I could review them. But I did also supervise. I had 2 attorneys at one point, and then I had one attorney who had some medical issues and was in and out a lot. But yeah, so I have had supervisory experience, and also as an older attorney, a more established attorney in each courtroom, you still have those kind of supervisory capabilities, even if you're not actual division chief.
So during the course of your career, outside of the juvenile division chief, is the division chief role something that you have sought out?
Well, I could be a felony division chief right now, but I wasn't ready to leave juvenile. I was enjoying the work that we were doing, and it's just a matter of when those spots become available. I have handled murder cases, so I have done everything that a division chief does. I just haven't had that felony division chief title.
Have you had opportunity to prosecute death penalty cases?
I have never done a death case.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. So, over your 24 years of attorney, what judges or judge do you think that you would most try to emulate, or maybe what aspects of certain judges would you try to most emulate if you became a judge?
I have worked in front of some wonderful judges. I started back with Judge Majid, and I don't think you can find a judge who respects the system or the flag any more than Judge Majid. But then I've also worked Judge Torpy, Judge Silvernail, Bird, lots of old school judges that you're punctual, you're prepared, you're treated with respect, and the court runs in a timely fashion. And I think I would rely on the experiences with those judges and try to emulate that behavior.
Cool. Thank you.
Good morning. My question sort of builds on that. 73 jury trials, at least, not more, 12 non-jury trials, then lots of judges. Can you describe something that you want to make sure you implement in your courtroom? To move things along, backlog docket, you treat people with respect, all those things, and then something that you've seen that you want to make sure you don't do in your courtroom.
Well, I think it's very important that judges sometimes get bogged down. Maybe they're reviewing warrants in their office, but I don't think that a judge should ever leave everyone waiting for over an hour or more without some explanation. Although the judge does not owe any explanation to any of the attorneys, I think it's just courteous, even if it's a message through the deputy. The judge is caught up reviewing warrants or something came up as an emergency. But I think it's inappropriate to leave everybody waiting. Obviously, assistant state attorneys, assistant public defenders, we get paid to sit there all day. So it doesn't impact us, but the private attorneys that come in, or your civilians that have taken off work that morning, whether they're a defendant or whether they're a victim. Everybody, if you're just sitting there, I think that's terrible. So I would definitely want to be on time. I think open communication is very important so that people know what's going on. And I lost the rest of your question, I'm sorry.
So something that you want to make sure you do and something that you want to make sure you don't do.
I don't want to be late without telling people, and I want to be on time. And I think it's important that everybody is treated with respect. Their case is important. There needs to be decorum. We may handle cases all day long, but this may be their first one. And I think that's important. And I think they need to be shown that respect. And I think there needs to be, every day in criminal court, somebody's liberty could be taken away. And I think that needs to be something that's treated with a lot of deference.
Thank you.
And I'm the last one up. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for coming today. As you know, this would be a circuit seat, and with the unique composition of the 18th Circuit of Seminole and Brevard being so isolated from one another, and it looks like you most likely would be up, or this spot would be up for re-election in August of 26. How do you plan on ensuring, if you were selected for the seat, to retain the seat in terms of, I know your career has been in Brevard County. How do you plan on attacking Seminole County, if you will?
Well, I also have contacts. One of the judges in Seminole County was on the Young Lawyers Board with the Florida Bar with me. We've maintained that relationship. Defense attorneys routinely will do both counties. I have those relationships also. Of course, the sheriff in Seminole is amazing with juvenile. It is interesting how different the two counties are from everything, from our facilities to even how our sheriffs maintain the counties also. So I think it's important to reach out to those people also in order I mean it is because geographically there's that little river in between us or the creek there that connects us. But I think those are definitely things that I would look into. I have had when I reached out to some of my references for this, were talking to me about election also. So I think I do have some people that would be more than willing to assist me with that also.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So given that your background is as a prosecutor, solely as a prosecutor, how would you address the concern that the governor or perhaps others may have that you would bring a prosecutorial mindset to the bench and may not have an appreciation for human frailty? How would you address that concern?
Well, I think a true prosecutorial mindset is justice. It's not wins or losses, it's justice. And that's what our commitment is. It's not, you're charged with a crime, you have to get the max penalty. It's justice. And I think that's why it's so easy to appoint prosecutors, because if you're a good prosecutor, then you take all of those things into consideration. You follow the law, but you do what's right. And I've had that opportunity also with filing decisions and telling law enforcement that this is not a good stop, or that you can't prove it, or you're telling a victim who's been victimized that we don't have the evidence because the burden is so high. You make those tough decisions. It's very easy to rubber stamp whatever law enforcement sends in, and I'm sure there are prosecutors that do that, but I think if you're a good prosecutor and you mission, vision, values, which is what Mr. Wolfinger pushed on to all of us, I think if you do those things, then you're fair, you're justice-oriented.
How do you see the role of a judge as being different than that of a prosecutor?
Well, of course, you're dealing with more than just criminal cases, and you're not down in the trenches. You're above the fray. You're looking at the rules. If it comes to you for a decision, then you're looking at both sides of the case and you're making a decision. I think as prosecutors, you're trying to figure out what the defense attorney is going to do, and you have to be mindful of that. But as a judge, you are another layer removed. You're not battling it out. You're looking at it more from an academic, rules, facts, law, and you're focusing it on that, from that frame of mind.
Is there anything you'd like to conclude with?
I spent 23 years as a prosecutor. I do have 2 boys, so probably 10 years of that I spent as a travel hockey mom, and I was able to, we travel everywhere, Toronto, Chicago, everywhere, like twice a month. And I was able to continue working at a high level, doing those felony trials, and getting everything done. One of those writing samples was probably drafted from the parking lot of the rink at Daytona when I had to take my child for practice. Because of course hockey is a little difficult in Florida. But of course now I'm able to focus solely on my career. I'm ready for that next step. My son is in college playing hockey, so he's their problem at this point. And of course was drafted in the NHL also. So all that hard work did pay off for both of us. But I am excited about the prospect of moving forward and being able to have a more significant impact on our community than just whatever cases come before me in front of whatever assigned judge I am.
Does your son still have all his teeth?
He does.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert.